on most podcasts, the hosts introduce themselves. We've never done that. We've just gone straight in. So
I
anyway, I'm
know.
Ben Dietz,
And I'm Jeff Carvalho.
and
And welcome to the
welcome to.
show.
That was great. Super smooth. Super
We're on.
smooth.
We literally are both ready for the mic anytime.
We're natural. Oh man. Uh, so Jeff, we lost a legend yesterday
Oh, we did. That's right. I
in David
put
Lynch.
it on my mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
It's just to me, it's like our heroes, not our heroes, but like our, we were just talking about anti-establishment, but like talk about a guy that was a hero for us.
yeah, no, 100%. But the thing that I love about David Lynch is that even in death, there's something like mysterious and unquantifiable about it. Like the quote from his family, as David, there's a huge hole in the universe, but as David would have said, don't focus on the hole, focus on the donut. Like amazing, amazing. I got sent all of these memes last night with these people going like, it's David Lynch on a talk show, and it says, the meme format is he makes some statement like God is gay, and then the host of the talk show is saying, please elaborate, and David Lynch is saying no, and just just and there were, I don't know, 80 different variations of that meme format, but he occupies such a like unique place in everybody's mind that obviously he'll be greatly missed, but also it's sort of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? He's like, in
Yeah,
death he will live on and become
yeah.
more powerful, kind of
I
thing.
remember and I'm gonna get the quote wrong, but I remember when the iPhone came out, or when the first real screen, and maybe we had maybe it was the iPod that could play videos. I remember David Lynch
Right.
going like, "Why the fuck would anybody ever want to watch a movie on something so small?" He was like, but he was great. What's interesting too is he did fuck the system. I mean,
Oh
sorry,
yeah.
but he also somehow got on primetime television
Well,
in
I
the
mean,
in the
if you
90s.
if you read if you read the New York Times, he not only got on primetime television, he revolutionized it, which
Mhm.
is amazing when you go back and you watch Eraserhead, for instance, is some of the early stuff, and you're like, wait, they gave the guy that made this a TV show? Like, what was that pitch meeting like? Like that's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah, for me, him and Jim Jarmusch are like the wacky tobacco of the film industry to me, which I love. I mean, for me as a like young kid in the '90s, watching something as like great, like this low end drone music with beautiful women in like fucking cabins in the north, like come on, it was mind bending. Also, it was like, but it fell in line with everything. It was like, if I think about that moment, it was Twin Peaks, the Pixies, um, uh, there's so many things that just aligned for me
Yeah,
during
yeah, in
that
that
time.
89, that 90, 91 kind of period. It's funny that I was introduced to David Lynch via Blue Velvet, which
Great
friend,
movie.
my friend
S-
Missy used
Also
to watch
freaky.
at her house after school, and it was like I
How
was
old were you guys?
13, and in fact, it prompted me when Campbell was 13 or 14 to show him
Oh my god.
Blue Velvet, and then immediately regret it. I was like, oh fuck.
On that note,
He
just
really was. Although I think I haven't talked to him about it in a while, but he was really affected by it, and I think
no
it. On
kidding.
the one hand, he really didn't like some parts of it, and on the other part, it really sparked a level of curiosity about like what filmmaking
The
or
boundaries of
mass
filmmaking.
media storytelling can be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, around content, not the quality of it, but the uh, maybe the maturity of it.
Yeah.
My son, my daughter, we listen to great, just so much music in the car. And my son really is into Green Day's second record, Dookie. And like, and there's actually some amazing songs on it,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
like half of the songs are talking about jerking off or not having enough sex, So when you get to these, or even like Money for Nothing by Dire Straits, there is a paraphrased part that uses a derogatory term
Right.
to describe gay men. And like, you have to see me in the car, dude. I'm like, trying to turn it down just on that
Oh,
one
really?
word. So, so I got a question for you. Like, you clearly
Yeah.
have raised two incredible kids. Like, what do you do? Like, do you just tell them what it really means? I guess you do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. I think our partially because of how old the kids are, like 18, 15,
Sure.
and partially because of just our sort of beliefs around language and the availability of language. Yeah, I think you let the kids hear the stuff, and then if they have questions, you explain, and
Right.
if they start repeating things that they shouldn't be repeating, you
Right.
immediately shut that down,
Yeah. Eh,
and then explain for why. But
The
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's funny. I got really really angry at Harper, so my daughter. This is it's probably 6 months ago now, because on the way home from volleyball practice, she and her friend wanted to put on Kanye West's Vultures in the car, and they're singing along to it and rapping along to it, and I was just like, this song, I was just like, are you listening to this song? Like, this is so demeaning to women, young women in particular, that it bothers me tremendously that you're singing along to it. And it also, because it makes me feel like you're not listening, and then it also bothers me because this is such an incredible degradation of Kanye's sort of lyrical talent. Now, I know I sound dusty as fuck when I say that, but it's how I
not
feel
Dusty,
about it.
your
Like, he's
parent.
making
I
bad
mean,
music. I hate when people who used to make great music make bad music.
he is a
Anyway,
he is a solid example of that, and it's crazy because there have been times where I've wanted to pull out like Homecoming, which I really just love, and
yeah.
he apologized. I guess I don't know.
You,
I
you
mean,
know,
look,
so actually, well, let's
Von B is on the cover of High Snobiety. That guy's got his own issues too, you know.
oh my God. Let's actually talk about Kanye for a second, because he just put out the Yeezy BL1, the running shoe, um which, I mean, like, for the kind of thing that your granddad would shuffle around, doing errands in, looks kind of cool. And therefore, to
Kids will
paraphrase
wear it.
Macklemore, yo, I got the Velcros.
I mean,
Like,
it's it 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 is incredible, and it will be studied in history how a celebrity moved the needle as strongly as he does. He has such a fan base that supports him and
is that
forgives him.
is that is that shoe gonna be a $20 price point like the rest of the ecosystem? Wow.
Well, that's his hope, right? His hope is to keep it down.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I'm trying to look at it. Is it a single mold? But I do see some
I
fabric
don't
on
know.
the upper there.
I don't know.
More than ever, this. Hmm?
We're in the Jeff zone now. I don't look at that. I just look at the silhouette.
Well, the bigger question is like it also feels like a shoe that can be produced um through a pretty easy mold process. I could be
Sure.
completely wrong, but
Yeah.
and I think he's always said that. That is the one thing he said. He's like, I've always wanted to make this stuff accessible. That was his hope with Gap. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I I,
new
I
shoe.
hope I really do hope he
We
gets
have
it
to touch
together,
on
dude.
sneakers in these conversations. So there, we've gone from David Lynch to sneakers in one slick move.
Right. Right.
Well done, Jeff. Well
So
done.
what are your thoughts on in general um where the market is to you today? Like my son has, by the way, I went to SneakerCon last week. Shout out Yu Ming.
Hmm.
And it
Oh, no
was
doubt.
it was a fun event. I'm not gonna lie. I hadn't been to a
Yeah, yeah. This
SneakerCon
is
and
when Campbell was younger. Yu Ming hosted us at SneakerCon too, and it was
so, by the way, Yu Ming's the
the
best.
greatest.
Just
Yeah,
the best.
what a dude.
But the one thing that was difficult, of course, is my son's like a size five, kids, youth,
Yep.
and my daughter is essentially size one. So there wasn't that much of it. But there was this moment, my son's obsessed with I feel like it's my own demise. Like he's obsessed with uh bootlegs, not dupes, not counterfeits, bootlegs. So we saw this
Interesting.
amazing, yeah. So he saw this amazing rug with the Bape ape head with some
Hmm.
Supreme kind of graphics over it. He's like,
Yep.
Dad, I'm like, I want. I'm like, Adi, it's it's a
It's
bootleg. He's like,
expensive.
it wasn't expensive. It was like
Oh,
a
really?
bootleg. Yeah, it was probably made of like Chinese dog hair for all I know. But and that's the sad part. But
Chinese
anyway,
plastic hairs. That's,
yeah.
yeah.
But
It'll just be
it's
plastic hair.
it's really interesting how like and I guess we did this ourselves, but how bootleg culture continues to thrive. You know, you look
Yeah.
at Boot Foundation, or I think it's called Under the Gallery, is Enter the Gallery, which is a big New York one. These guys are like making better merch than the bands themselves.
Right. Okay.
And I think that to me is just, you know, it's super cool. And for a guy that wants to walk around in like an official Fugazi shirt, and by the way, I think you can buy one from um, Revelation Records. They happen to sell Minor Threat shirts, so I guess they're original.
Revelation sells Minor Threat shirts.
They do. They sell Minor
Interesting.
Threat, a
Interesting.
couple other bands there. But bootleg culture to me is like the future of the creative vehicle. Like making those shirts, putting them out. Half of the time there's an acceptance. I listen to, you know, how many times have you heard musicians who hear an artist rendition of a new vocal just crush it, right? There's this famous Dead Mouse video of him asking for fans to send him a vocal, and like one guy like killed it, and that track, you know, existed. So I don't know. I'm really obsessed with the idea of like still mixing things up, and how the next generation perceives the brands that we know and how they see
Yep.
it. That's always
Yeah.
filled
I
my
mean,
mind space.
yeah, I don't know. You've sent me down this rabbit hole on the Revelations site, which is so funny. Like Black Flag T-shirts on Revelation Records.
Revelation is where you get your hardcore t-shirts. They have
Yeah,
everyone.
what a cool pivot. Actually, smart.
It is
That's
pretty
really
smart.
smart.
I mean, they're all friends, right? Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like the scene. As much as these scenes made epochal impacts on people like us, there were about 17 people involved in the whole thing. So it's like they all know each other.
Right.
It's like that. The network was not very big.
Right.
Um, Cool. I'm gonna buy some hardcore t-shirts. All right. Well,
Might,
anyway,
might as well.
look, I think it's funny. My you wonder at what point the bootleg is a gateway into original making, right? Like I think of the Fresh Jive t-shirts that were all, logo rips and that whole period that came out of skateboarding's appropriation of corporate symbols, raves appropriation of corporate symbols, brands like Fresh Jive and Fuck that played in those spaces a lot. And for me, it was you sort of you use the recognizable, like the Ford logo flipped into the Fuck logo, and then went, all right, if you can do it with that, you can imagine what you can do with in any other logo. Let's play around with this and
Yeah.
see. And then it's like, well, hang on, maybe I don't need a logo to start with. Maybe I can just make my own graphic, and it gets people into it. And it's funny, like I bought my son I bought my he got hooked up. He got connected to this brand on Instagram called Wojo, Wojo, um, and wanted like a work jacket from them for Christmas. So I looked at it and it was like $100, and it's like, okay, this is you know
It's
not
funny.
bad.
I'm looking on
You
Instagram, and it's Campbell that follows him.
Yeah. And it's but
That's a cool jacket.
you go to right, so you go I bought the jacket. It's part of a limited drop, whatever. It didn't show up in time for Christmas. They sent a bunch of weird emails, and I was just like, I think this might just be a drop shipping scam brand. Like I think I might have gotten swindled. But eventually the jacket showed up. It showed up on Boxing Day, day after Christmas, and it's great. It's a nice piece. The thing that they said was the reason that it got delayed is borne out in the product, right? In terms of
Hmm.
like the hand and the finish of the garment, and you're just like, oh, this is a kid presumably who was just inspired by whatever, a cool
Yeah.
logo, a cool brand, a cool bootleg,
Yep.
and he's now doing his own thing and building something that resonates with my son and will never hit my radar unless my son introduces it to me. And I guess that to me is the value of that stuff. Like it's bringing the kids into a point of inspiration and interest that they can grab onto, and it's
Yeah.
accessible for them.
I love these Instagram brands. We've been talking about them forever. How
Right.
they sort of exist outside of the, I was going to say mainstream, but even outside of the underground in some regard. Um,
Yeah.
but what's really interesting, and I'd love to hear more from Campbell on it. It is a limited drop, and I'm wondering if they're trying to make it even more limited, because it looks like the only way that you even find out about a drop is through text message, only SMS now. So it's really cool how I don't know. I just love that idea of just making it a little bit more difficult to get. But to your point, 35,000 followers, and he seems to be selling pretty well in these things. And man, bravo to them. Because quite frankly, I'd love to do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I got turned on recently to this brand out of London that's like the adult version of this, meaning that they are they have a couple of silhouettes that are just like there's a barn jacket and a Cosentino wool work vest that they just released. Um, and it's similar kind of thing. Like we're only making X number of pieces. We're only dropping them through our ecom. We're only releasing this at one time. Um, we got to try to find the brand.
Ben, while you're digging that up, I'm going to go back to the conversation we were having about fuck logos and logos in general. Museum of Graffiti down here in Wynwood, Miami, actually, and I think it's still up, has a great exhibit by oh my god, I'm embarrassed. Um,
This is
Slick,
great. We're
OG Slick. Oh my god, I almost
okay.
killed
OG
myself.
Slick. I was gonna
Oh
say,
my
and
god.
I found the brand by the
Whew.
way. It's called Painter Jacket, Painter with a Y.
Oh, I've
Anyway,
seen that,
sorry. So
dude.
yeah, yeah,
That's come
it's cool.
across my. I'm gonna actually let me follow them really quick. Painter
It's cool.
jacket. But if you're down here, I think it's still up. Museum of I was gonna say Museum of Sex because that's a popular one. Museum of Graffiti has an incredible OG Slick exhibit, and the best part about the exhibit is not just Slick's personal art and the work.
Right.
There's a whole section, and Ben, I'll send you the photos from it. That actually out that shows the fucked logo, how he made it, a lot of drafts around it, and inside of that case also was like the cease and desist letters. I'll send it all to you. It was just super cool to see all that because a lot of that stuff just honestly is not online. A couple
Yeah, yeah, for
magazines
sure.
that had Brunetti interviews. And you have to imagine, dude, like I'm in there like I'm literally taking a photo of everything so I can come home and like, you know, be able to read it. So
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
it the I think the fuck logo one, and it's one that again will be studied. Certainly has already been studied because Brunetti, of course, beat um,
Right.
the trademark office through the Supreme Court to get that um, trademark. But of course, at the beginning of the day, look, there's nothing wrong with inspiration, and if it looks cool, fuck it, man. I mean, the
Yeah, yeah,
fucked logo looked amazing as a Ford logo. Still does.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Um, it's funny the Slick. So this exhibit of Slicks is his collection or just his work or what or
Yeah,
from
it's
his
a
work?
it's it looks like it's a collection of his work. A lot of larger ceramic pieces, tons of art. And funny enough, how I fell onto it, my son and my daughter we were walking around Design District, and funny enough, Tristan Eaton, an artist that you and I
Sure.
have worked with in Clubhouse days, he was dropping a limited edition Dunny that was only available at the Museum of Graffiti. And
Okay.
how could I not buy one for my son? You walk in there, and the artist is there, and so it was really cool. It's funny because like you know it's what I would do. Our
Yeah, yeah, for
kids are
sure.
just like us. Our kids are just
Yeah.
like us.
No, for sure. The by the way, the reason I ask is because the cause the way I see it show closes this weekend. Sunday's the last day. Um, which is of course the collection of his personal, well, it's his personal collection or some major portion of his personal collection of other artists um, at the Drawing Center in Soho, and it's free or it's pay what you want, and it's just a really cool collection of stuff, and I think it's caused a reappraisal of Brian's work
Oh man, I love it. I love
itself
it.
because it is made clear like how invested he is in other artists and in
Right.
just like lots of different styles and stuff that is historically important and
I
stuff
went
that
there.
is like
I left that show and bought Crumb.
major artists, etc.
I left that show and bought two Crumb prints. No bullshit.
Oh yeah,
Speak.
that's right, that's right.
Speaking of closings, probably one of the bigger news in the digital fashion virtual space, certainly in the NFT space, is Nike's Artifact imprint is closing down. And for those that
Yeah,
are not familiar with Artifact, Artifact was one of the earlier digital NFT studios that really thought about how to make beautiful product digitally, with the hope, of course, that you could translate, an NFT sneaker into something physical. And quite frankly, they did. They did it about 3 times, I think. Um, and it's just interesting because they were like if I remember correctly, they were just way ahead of everybody. And when Nike purchased them, it felt very much like Nike was kind of trying to bite the head at, how do you say it? Trying to cut the snake at the head in some way, like get in front
Mm-hmm,
of what
mm-hmm,
they assumed would be this massive influx
disruptive
of digital
force.
sneakers and disruptive
Yeah.
force. And you know, looking back at it now, I love that Nike picked them up. These guys that work for Artifact are, I believe, they're all gonna go within the Nike system. So we're going to still see a lot of output from them. But it is a little bit of a bummer that such a cool project. And remember, Artifact worked with Takashi Murakami on a variety of things as
Yep.
well. Is
Yep.
Yeah, it's sunsetting, if we can use a good word.
Well, I mean, look, it's a reminder that putting your eggs in any one basket is generally speaking a mistake, and also that two things can be true, right? Like that, yes, it is true that more kids are going to need digital collectibles for their Fortnite skins, and
Which, by
also
the way, that part of the
they're going
business
to
is
want to go
working.
outside and play basketball in the sunshine when you can go outside and play basketball in the sunshine. You know what I mean? It's like
I mean,
that.
yeah,
So serve both audiences, but stop acting like one is to the destruction of another, because it isn't.
I think Nike wins, quite frankly, by sorry, let me step back a second. If I recall, one of the promises of the merger was that this was not about NFTs. In fact, I don't believe the word NFT is even used in the original press release. It was
Probably
about
not.
innovation. It was about
Hmm.
bringing on this team that could change maybe the way they designed shoes, the way they thought
Yep.
about designing shoes. And I'll be honest, it was two pretty decent shoes. I think they were kind of ahead of its time, quite frankly. The first Artifact drop. Um, but anyway, yeah, it's sad to see it go. I again, I'm still very long in the digital space. If you look
Digital
over,
collectibles.
totally, you look over at Nike and what they've done with Fortnite, it is amazing. I mean, my
Right.
son, you know, he will come here, ask me for $20 or whatever Roblox he needs to go buy the latest imprint.
Right.
Which speaks to the fact that, like, there is a need to look good even digitally, you know?
Right. Right. I hope you tell him no at least some of the time, Jeff.
Dude. Well, now I
I,
have him
I can
doing
just imagine you
chores.
getting excited about like him, adopting the collector's mindset and being like, okay, I'm going to encourage him. But
It's funny. I don't think he definitely he's much more realistic than me, which is great. Yeah. Um, but
little self assessment, know thyself. All right,
the one
cool.
thing I do think about, just going back to like creatives, making dupes, making bootlegs, like
Yeah.
my son's using FL, formerly known as Fruity Loops, pretty famous like digital processing software making music. And I, I mean, when I was 9 years old, I didn't even have access to a computer, let
Right.
alone a piece of software. But the fact that his 9-year-old brain can figure out, how to put music on a timeline and break it out instrumentally is just mind-boggling. And
I don't
you
know,
don't think
Jeff. I
so?
think I think no. I think if you'd had if you'd had the tools and techniques, you would have been able to do that at the same age. I mean, it's you know our enthusiasm capacity to learn to for learning is significant at that age. I mean, and I was just thinking of like what was our analog? Like our analog was hearing, white lines on the radio and then going like, how do you make that scratching sound? And then going up to your parents like Blaupunkt turntable and
Wow, Blaupunkt, bro.
scratching the record and having people be like, like my parents are like, don't do that.
That's
Don't do that.
amazing. Um, Social media, of course, is a big part of that. And this week, we've seen some insane social media news, dude. Uh, New York Times, of course, was the first to report that Zuck was pulling back on essentially controls, levers that gave a check on things.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Is it kissing the ring? Is it kissing the ring, Ben?
oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, but it's also, and that's the part of it that made it, or that makes it reprehensible, is that it is nakedly political. And or rather that it is trying to cloak a business decision in a nakedly political in a grab for naked political power. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's like the 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 controls were put in place in a similarly reprehensible, grab
Hmm.
at influence and power. They were sustained and strengthened in a different version that was all about, you know, the sensitivity brigade, and then now they're dialing back and everybody's a caveman again, and it's just like,
I,
again, none
they're
of these
dialing back at everything, dude. Everything's being
well,
dialed
but I'm
back.
saying, like, none of these states are absolute, right? Like,
Right.
and so what annoys me about it chiefly is just like the endless pendulum where you're just like, you could just stay in the middle and let people speak properly and
Yeah, but
try
that's the
to
thing. That's the thing, Ben. We do not. People do not do that. That is
yeah, no, I suppose that's
the
true.
one thing that
Particularly
Zuck
on, like,
said that I thought was quite interesting, and he got a lot of shit for saying it.
mm,
Was this idea that the public consciousness has changed, that the um,
yeah,
the demeanor of this country is maybe not what a certain agenda pushed either way, and you can't deny that, but that
no,
doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean it's the best choice just because everyone decides that X, Y, Z is there. And when you mentioned this thing about pulling back. Listen, we've been seeing this. I mean, damn, after the election, especially when you look in the fashion world and the fact that in an industry that puts out so much apparel, uses so much water to develop their product, rightfully so. We need clothes.
mm,
Maybe the water thing not. They're pulling back on trying to figure out ways to be sustainable.
right.
Organic cottons are too expensive for them to manage their business, right? So that's the bottom line excuse. And there's a lot of rollback happening. It's kind of
Well,
crazy to see it.
but I think that's, I mean, that's kind of my point. Is I would rather it be simply said, this we're doing this for business reasons, not we're doing this to address a change in consciousness or to revisit
I don't think
masculine
it's a
energy or whatever.
I don't
It's
think it's a
fuck off.
business issue. I think
You
to
don't?
well, okay, to Zuck it is because they would definitely. I think there's a lot of shit that will go down if you don't kiss that ring. Um, but at the same time, I think that this is being done for political reasons, not for the
Oh no, hundred
people.
percent. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
100%.
By the
But
way,
but
I
but
don't know
but
if you
that's the thing.
saw.
Political businesses are political reasons are business reasons,
Right.
and vice versa. Um, yeah, I don't
TikTok,
know.
the TikTok CEO, by the way, got invited to the inauguration. I don't know if you caught that.
I did. I'm eager to see. Well, we'll see. The Supreme Court this morning upheld the ban, so we'll
They
see how
did.
the. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Just a couple
wow.
hours ago. So we're recording on Friday, the 17th of January. They just upheld it a couple hours ago. So then the question becomes: does it shut down on Sunday, the 19th? And if that's the case, then what happens? Does Trump issue a stay? I heard something this morning about the Biden administration not enforcing it, which I haven't looked further into. But either way, it just, like, it's going to be a weird couple of days, and it'll be interesting to see what that weirdness portends for the future
Uh,
of media
I'm
in the next days.
checking. One thing I was thinking about is not just. I'm just taking some quick numbers. 170 million Americans use this. It's roughly half of the population.
Mm.
Um, I wanted to see how many people do they employ? How many people TikTok employ? And they employ, I want to say 27,000 jobs. That's 7,000 jobs, dude. That's a lot of jobs. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, my continued sense of this is that it finds its way back to a level of existence and prominence pretty quickly, through some machination or another. The
right.
question is just, like, does it stay shut down for any period of time where jobs may not be affected in the short term, but that its brand equity gets diminished in a way that allows something else to happen, right? Like,
Totally. And by
we've
the
heard
way,
all these stories about Red Note, which is effectively like a shopping app. By the way, one thing that I thought was really interesting about this
great
is that
story in the Times about them today, by the way, taking a lot
about
of
Red Note.
TikTokers on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that I thought was really interesting about about the about TikTok's proliferation in the U.S. Ryan Broderick in Garbage Day made an assertion this week that was that, or maybe it might have been Taylor Lorenz actually in User Mag, but one of the two of them made an assertion that because TikTok was built as a shopping app or it was built to address the live stream shopping ecosystem in China, but that ecosystem doesn't exist here
That's right.
in the same way.
Not yet.
That the algo optimized for identity-driven personal expression, or whatever the case is, which is why TikTok has taken on a different tenor here than Red Note does in Zhao Shuangxu does in, I probably mispronounced that. Apologies.
Super apps. The super apps, bro.
But in any case, and so consequently, any other potential replacement is going to come in and fundamentally work differently, because it's about, like, Red Note is about selling stuff at its heart. And I just found that as a
Excuse
like,
me,
origin story really a kind of an
there's
interesting
the thing I think about, and we're running long on time. There are consumers that use TikTok and plenty of other people that do not care about politics with China.
Sure.
And to them, they just want a place to do their thing and not to be disrupted doing it.
Right.
But we'll see. Listen, he's going to the inauguration. Maybe Trump, will Trump say it? Will Trump say it? Before we go, Ben, two things about the Trump inauguration. Polymath, which is one of these crypto betting trading platforms,
Sure,
has
like a
this
Kalshi kind of vibe.
yeah, has this massive bounty on, will Trump say crypto or Doge first during his inauguration? Doge, of course, being the Shiba Inu coin, and also the acronym for this new what is it? Department
of Government Efficiency. Yeah.
Anyway,
Bless.
thanks so
Bless.
much for listening, guys. I've had a great Friday with Ben. This was awesome. Do us a favor, subscribe on your favorite podcast player. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a solid there, as well as Spotify. We'd love to hear more from you guys as well. Hit us up on either Ben's Instagram, which is Deets Nuts. I think it's the same
at Deets Nuts everywhere.
Everywhere, right? And mine is Jeff Carvalho everywhere. And yeah, that's it. Ben, see you next week, bud.
Great to talk to you, Jeff. Talk soon.
All right.
All right.
Okay, I got to make this Gorilla Biscuits logo